Home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Woo!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chapter.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo Wan from Toronto, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from Vancouver, BC, and we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. Theo, speaking of Ultimate, have you played any Ultimate? I know your practice roster. Has that started already, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I practiced on Thursday. It was fun. Good times.
Nice.
And then I was commentating on Saturday in Ottawa, so don't recommend this to many people, but I drove to Ottawa like in the afternoon, and then I came back in the night and like didn't get in until like 2 a.m. So like I just didn't want to stay over and lose my whole day, so I did that. Don't recommend it, but if you want to try the Toronto to Ottawa road trip, you can do that. So that's my ultimate experience over the weekend. We're going to talk, party tournaments and stuff later, because I know there was one that happened in BC, but were you playing Frisbee this weekend, or what were you doing?
This weekend, I was definitely coaching a bunch. We had like a high school kind of drop-in scrimmage. If you hear a weird noise, my dog is having some very violent dreams right now. So she's adding to the audio track. And on Sunday, there was U20 Tryouts in Vancouver. So I was around a lot of Frisbee. I was not personally playing a lot of Frisbee.
So let me ask you this, because I've had many people ask me this question now. When you're seeing Frisbee and like you're on the side coaching or whatever, does it like, how badly do you want to get in, or are you okay kind of being on the side in that moment?
Interesting question. I think now that I've been wearing both hats for so long, I think maybe when I first started coaching, I got into the practices a lot more when I was coaching high school kids. But now I'm very happy to give feedback and everything and have my time, because I need to warm up. Like when I was younger, I could just like hop into some drills and stuff like that. But my body does not feel good when I just hop into drills, like throw the cleats on without doing my full activations, without the rolling and everything. Like this is a finely tuned machine, and it needs time to warm up. So no, absolutely not.
Yeah, spoken like a true Masters player there. I did see some more World's Masters announcements coming out and the commentary team and stuff like that, and it got me thinking that you are going to be there.
Yeah,
like you are playing. So when is that exactly? And you excited?
I'm very excited. I saw that it was in Ireland. I was like, I gotta make a squad. So yeah, playing for Cold. We're going to be playing at the beginning of July in Ireland. I leave kind of near the end of June to do a bit of hiking and sightseeing first, and then play for like 6 days and then come back to traffic. So very excited. Are you going per chance? No, you're not.
I will not be at Masters World. Still working on making it to the Club Worlds here, but I will not be at World. I thought about applying to be a commentator or doing something there media wise, but I don't actually have as much desire to travel as others. My form of travel is just going to the United States and going to baseball stadiums. So that's like my ideal thing. Like the hiking and stuff, that was not something, like as you said that, I was like, yeah, that would not interest me. So I'd rather go to the States and just hit up baseball stadiums. So that's my form of travel.
You can't really do that in Ireland. So
yeah, I don't think they have baseball there. So maybe soccer, the good old football.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Well, speaking of rosters and updates, we have a jam-packed episode. So if you're feeling like we've caught up enough, like I feel like I was there with you.
We're gonna head to the news. We're heading to the news. Let's hit the news.
We now have breaking news.
Okay, welcome to your news section. So lots of rosters being dropped all over the place. I feel like every time I open up Instagram, something else has been posted and super exciting. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Furious's roster was dropped. And I was definitely curious how this one was going to go. Obviously, I was hearing about how the tryouts were going from a lot of the people that work for me or people that I've coached before and from Ari. And it sounded like a lot of the new young players were playing really well. And so I was curious if any of them will be able to squeak onto this roster. And it
Right.
doesn't really seem like it. It seems like all the new players that were added are a bit more experienced, with the exception of Justin Pettinuzzo, who's a UVic player star, was on the U24 mixed roster as well. So the rest of the new additions have been playing at a high level for a while, and will hopefully seamlessly fit into the roster. But no big surprises when I look at this squad. Jonah Liash is joining the coaching staff rather than a player. He's been dealing with concussion symptoms for quite a while now. So it's good to see that he's still involved with the team. But did anything surprise you on that roster when you looked at it?
Well, the name that definitely stood out was Justin Pettinuzzo, because he was someone we were talking with during the college national scene. So when I saw that name, that got me excited to see a college a player out there. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that roster's looking good. They had their, I think, first team since their roster was set last night by the time we're recording this, and I heard it was just really fun and intense, and there's lots of chirping. So in good furious fashion, just steaming ahead. So TT also dropped their roster. I know you really are into the graphics and the way that they've kind of designed their thing. It's really cute. Big fan.
yeah, whoever's their graphic designer, shout out for sure. Good concept.
Very good concept. So it's an exciting team. Their leadership team is quite big. A lot of returning veterans have been on the team for a while, and then their fresh fruit rookies, it's all like bubble tea themed, are young and exciting. So it's going to be a fun roster. I know that they just played at a tournament this past weekend called Sunflicker, and they had a good time. So excited to see that. And also Fable dropped their roster. So the mixed teams rolling out everything. I know Mola Mola also has finished their roster, but it hasn't been announced yet at this point. I'm sure it will soon. That roster also looks good. One thing that I noted about the Fable roster is that their coaches are both players. So I think on most teams in the adult division in Vancouver, you'll see that their coaches are independent from the actual playing roster. So with the exception of Fable. So good luck to all those teams for the year.
That's actually really interesting. I'm looking at the rosters here, and that is kind of interesting that, first of all, I see a few practice roster players and none other than our favorite videographers. So we got to give some love to Mr. Nathan Kalakovic there for being on the practice roster. I know you'll be filming a lot of tournaments and stuff, so I don't know how many practices you'll actually be at. Mm-hmm. But the fact you're on the rosters, that excited me. But yes, coach player or player coach. You don't normally see that. I see Ben Blackford. I know he's from Ontario, so cool to see a familiar Ontario name out there.
I also want to do a shout out to Marin Barazan, who's on that roster. I played with her at UVic, and it's Maddie Barazan's little sister. Mm-hmm. So obviously Ultimate runs in the blood of that family because I've played with her older sister before on Traffic and on Shippo. So it's cool to see the whole squad out playing Frisbee together. Well, not together, but still playing Frisbee, kicking it. It's good.
Yeah, the Barazan name definitely holds some weight there in the Vancouver scene. So we're going to skip some other coasts here. Calgary's one of their teams, Lit, their mixed team had announced something like before that we've talked about, but then we're going to keep going east over to Kitchener-Waterloo. So continuing with the mixed scene, Crash announced their roster. A few people from London, Ontario. So good to see them making I think it's like a 2-hour drive to practice. So good to see that. A few Waterloo University students, Tiffany Zhang being one of them. I know you know that name. So yeah, the Crash roster out there. Did you have a chance to look at it? Any the names here, some of them are from Union in the past. So I mean, that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, Tiffany Zhang's a good young pickup for them. I think the roster looks solid. It's hard to know because I feel like there's just so many more teams in Ontario than we have over here. So, I mean, it looks good. I know that they have quite a few people that played last year still in the squad. I know that really helps. So I think they're going to have a good season.
Yeah, Andrew Savage being one of them for sure. So then local, we're going to jump all the way to Kingston, Ontario now. And local 613 got sent the roster directly from the team. So do appreciate that. And not a lot of names I recognize compared to some of these other rosters. I'm going to be honest with you, Danny. So maybe they're picking up more from the local Kingston community. Trevor Nechtel, is that that's a BC name, right?
Yep. He's a UVic player from Vancouver, but yeah, UVic player.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how local does. I see some Queens players as well, so I know they draw from that crowd. So yeah, they were pretty successful at UCI. We'll see how they do this coming season.
Mm-hmm.
Jetting backwards here, not going in a geographical order, but Hamilton Crux has announced their team. I see a lot of rookies because they put like the emojis that you can see on their roster update. And there's a lot of rookies there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like a bunch. So rookies, you get the fresh blood or experienced players that are first time on the team. That's exciting. So yeah, good luck to Crux this season. They'll be at the tournament in Toronto. So definitely want to send them some good vibes as well. And then Ottawa's own. You'll know some players on this squad. So Stella announced her roster. I do like the graphic as well. Like the graphic, but like you said, TT has the best roster graphic. I don't think any team is going to top it, to be quite honest with you. Like, that was the best graphic. This one's up there as well. So any names stick out to you? Like that they have 3 coaches, Eric Hunter being one of them.
Yeah, I guess he's coaching juniors too, so good for him. Yeah, it's going to be again an exciting team. I'm excited to kind of see them at this first tournament because it's a good first look at every roster as they're rolling out.
Yeah, Stella is from what I know, at least right now, not going to be at this. I guess some Ottawa teams aren't coming, so Stella will not be there. Other Ottawa teams will be there though, so you can look out for them. But I definitely some names I recognize for sure, and then some Ottawa and Carleton players thrown in there. So I would like to know the crossover between this roster and the Stello like Masters team roster because I feel like they look kind of similar. No.
Yeah, there's definitely some players that are still kicking it in both divisions.
Isn't that you?
Yeah, that's me. I it's kind of nice being kind of in between because you can kind of dabble wherever. So you definitely see a lot of people in Ottawa doing the same thing, like Dominique Roux, for example. So yeah, it's
Samantha Green, yeah. I see that.
But they have a lot of really young talent on this team too. A lot of people just out of juniors. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see them play.
Yeah, well, you knew what the segue was because you're segueing right to juniors. So there is juniors happening out in what is it? The Pioneer Valley Invite. Have you heard of that? I know that's like a big high school tournament, but it sounds like Ottawa's sending some club teams.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it. It's been something that's been on my radar, but I've never been able to send teams to it before.
Yeah, so there's 3 Ottawa boys teams and 2 Ottawa girls teams going, which is really exciting. Titian, hopefully I'm saying that right, boys and girls from Montreal, and then another Montreal team, Arsenic, or it's probably said in a French accent that I'm not pulling off. And then a team called PULL from a city that I cannot say.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't say that either.
I'm not even going to try to say it. So you can find it on I don't want to butcher it. So you can find it on their, on the Pioneer Invite team list. And you can look if you really desire to do so.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick with juniors and I'm going to kick it to the U20 tryouts. I wasn't at all of them. In fact, I was only at the Vancouver one, but I've been kind of listening and talking to the coaches about all the tryouts, and it definitely, some of the tryouts were better attended than others. So definitely seeing a bit of a dip in kind of engagement in the Toronto area, and same thing with Winnipeg. So especially on the women's side, there weren't that many people trying out. Whereas you flip over to the Montreal tryout and the Vancouver tryout, and they were full. So the coaches in Ottawa, the coaches in Montreal and Quebec and Vancouver are doing a really good job of keeping the kids engaged throughout the pandemic, and it really showed at the tryouts. So there was almost 50 women registered in Vancouver, and I think 50 plus guys registered in Vancouver. So we had a couple fields full of athletes. It was very exciting. Everyone was looking really good, really dialed in. It was quite windy, so it was a good test of all of the athletes. And I know on the girls' side, we figured out our roster last night. And so I think that the invites are going to be starting to go out probably by the time this airs. I know the guys are going to take a little longer. So if you're looking for an invite to the open team, you have a little bit longer to wait, because they were like, it was funny. They were like, well, we have however many spots left and we're interested in like 17 people. And for us, we felt pretty confident about our squad pretty early on. So they have a few more discussions and more videos and stuff to review than we did. So anything there pique your interest, Theo? Any questions about it?
You said two things that I have interest in. One, I thought you were going to give an exclusive Huckin for the listeners roster drop right here, but I realized probably can't do that. So that's my first point. Second one is, it's interesting what you said about the juniors programs that kind of had people in-house. Like, we got a lot of updates from the Ottawa coaches, Mike Belanger, Carlos Boos. He's going to be mad I said it wrong.
Boos.
They were sending us updates about what Ottawa juniors programs were doing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I know Toronto had a bit of a harder time. And maybe you're seeing that. I mean, I think you can safely say you're seeing the fruit of that by who's showing up to tryouts. Like, the problem with the pandemic and the lost generation, we called it. I think we've called them there multiple times on the pod. So
yeah,
I think you're seeing it now. And I think you're going to see it for a few more years until it kind of bounces back. What do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a dip. And one cool moment that I'll shout out at the Vancouver tryout is when the tryout was done, we had all the athletes kind of sitting around us and we said, how many of you have another round of tryouts? Meaning, how many of you are in grade 11 or younger? And I think like 80% or more put their hand up. Some of the kids that were there that were playing really well were grade 8 and grade 9. And so we're just seeing a lot of, as you said, the fruits of the labor. We've been investing a lot in elementary ultimate and in juniors ultimate here in Vancouver. And you can definitely start to see that. You see these very talented kids coming up in grade 8 and grade 9. They get not only one, but 2 more rounds of tryouts before they're not eligible anymore for U20. So it was pretty cool to see that hard work from all the coaches and everyone here has been paying off. So I'm excited to see kind of how the 2024 team is going to look. It's going to be really good.
Yeah, people ask the question, this was in the mailbag many episodes ago, where they said, how can Canada catch up? One of the answers is you got to build in the youth. You got to have these kids playing like early, because then they have those good habits, the good coaching from grade 8 or even earlier. And then you'll see the fruits of the labor. So other communities got to look at the Vancouver and the Ottawa and Montreal models and sort of ask them, what are you doing? And how can we also do that?
Yeah.
And make the country the best.
Speaking of young player ultimate, but not quite as young, we're going to move into college. Are you ready to move into the college section?
Yeah, I was loving the college regionals. I wish, it was
so
live
exciting.
But following it online was fun. So yeah, you start first.
Okay, so we're going to start with the Northwest region on the open side. So we had 2 teams representing Canada in the Northwest. We had University of Victoria and we also had University of British Columbia. And both teams had really strong Saturdays. They ended up winning their pools. They were both second seeds in their pool, and they ended up winning their pools and setting themselves up for a really good crossover game Saturday later afternoon. And so the University of Victoria ended up playing Oregon State, and UBC ended up playing Utah State, and UVic ended up losing 9-12 in their semifinal game. And UBC ended up losing to Utah on Universe by 1 point. And so they were not necessarily out at that point. So then Oregon State and Utah State played each other in finals. So then UVic and UBC were now in the back door trying to get in.
Back door.
Arguably, UBC had the tougher matchup. They're playing UW, which is the number 1 seed in the region. UVic had a tough matchup as well, playing the number 3 seed Oregon. So UVic got bested 8-13 in that game, and UBC only lost by 2. And so that was kind of the end of their dreams there. And I did get some intel that a lot of those times, the 2 losses that UBC had, they were leading by a few. They're even up by 2 or 3 potentially at half, and just weren't able to hold on to those leads going into those games. So really commendable effort by those teams, and really close, like a lot closer than I think a lot of people thought that they were going to get.
Oh, for sure. Because if you listen to the Deep Look episode where they're talking about regional picks, like you'll notice that like Western Washington's kind of mentioned, or like Oregon, but then like UBC and UVic are kind of like mentioned by like the hosts, and like Stegemiller who's there as well, but like they weren't like talked about even being in the semifinals. So Danie and I were messaging back and forth. Actually, this is a fun fact, and she was like, "Yo, so can they like one team might make it?" I was like, "Well, both could." Like we were just like so stoked at like the possibility, and then unfortunately it didn't work out, but. Honestly, great effort. Just to get to the semifinals is amazing. I'm sure it was really exciting for those players, so I'm pretty sure they're fired up about it. I mean, at the time, probably a little bit sad now.
Yeah, and I know that UVic was missing a couple players for U20 tryouts, and those players are quite impactful for their team. And I tweeted at Ultiworld, I was like, UBC and UVic in semifinals, Northwest region, with like the little eyes emojis. And then Keith from Ultiworld was like, drinks on Danie if they win or whatever. And then Keegan from UVic messaged me. He said, you jinxed us. So
you did jinx them. I did see that on Twitter. We're trying to be more active on Twitter this weekend. I will say that. I was trying to be a little bit more active for us. So the teams that are on Twitter, it's American teams, and they were all giving us great coverage. I really enjoyed that. I could find out before even USA Score Reporter, like what was happening, because like UW's like teams are tweeting, and Oregon and whoever. So
yeah,
we need more tweeting coverage here, I guess.
Yeah, I was definitely stalking a lot of teams like Utah State. I was like, I guess I follow you now on Twitter. They weren't really updating too much, but I know UVic is really good at updating their Twitter, because I think a lot of people back home do follow them there, but I don't think the UBC squads do as much. They definitely post on Instagram sometimes, but definitely need to stalk other teams in order to get those scores. So moving on to the women's division, we had also the University of Victoria and the University of British Columbia both competing. They were in the same pool. UBC ended up going 3-0 in pool play, and UVic ended up going 1-2. So UBC overtook Whitman 13-5, and then UBC ended up overtaking UVic 11-3. Okay, but UVic ended up winning a game 5-3.
Yeah, I saw that
Whitman.
too.
So I'm sure it was quite windy. Like looking at Nathan Kalakovic's Instagram stories, he was saying that the weather was playing a major role in this tournament. So obviously you can see that in that game. Those points are long. I've been a part of some games where it's like final score 6-4 or something like that. It's exhausting. It is exhausting. So after pool play, we ended up seeing UBC versus Western Washington, and UBC ended up coasting through that game 12-8, and they ended up finishing off by playing UW, and UW ended up beating them 12-9. So UBC kind of drops down and basically waits for the backdoor teams to come up. So University of Victoria ended up beating Montana State, but then they ended up losing to Western, and so then they were out of contention. So UBC ended up playing Oregon, and it wasn't even close. It was 15-4. So UBC cinching the bid. The only Canadian team, this is a bit spoiler alert, the only Canadian team to make it to College National. So congratulations to them. No surprise to me, but super proud of that whole squad. Their team is so deep, so exciting. So yeah, good job.
Yeah, I mean, we're not jinxing it here, but I definitely see this team as a beyond. Maybe I am. Should I say this? Because am I jinxing them, Danie, if I say like where I think they'll end up at nationals? Is that a jinx?
I think you're giving them an opportunity to practice their mental resiliency. So you can say it.
Yeah, I definitely think this team is like quarters team and beyond. Like I think like they can definitely reach like quarters. Seeing them on tape definitely can. Like I think they can. I know UW is a team that potentially could make semis as well. So the fact that 12-9, a few bounces here and there, not a blowout, of course. So I think this team could make semis, but I think quarters for sure. Like that's my. I'm not trying to be a homer here, guys. I am just being an honest, ultimate media person.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think they're dope. They've been putting up good scores all season long. I think there's no reason to say that they won't be in quarters, and I think that their ceiling is high. I think their ceiling is semis and into finals. So it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, maybe they need UBC. I'm challenging you right now. You need T-shirts that say like Canada versus like UBC versus like the world or something, like something to kind of rally the troops here, get everyone excited because you're the only Canadian team there. So
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say. You spoiled it, but we are gonna recap Mcgill. McGill's whoever runs their, I know who runs their Instagram, won't blow your identities here, but they love giving us love, and we reciprocate by also reposting. So we do appreciate that, McGill. So in pool play, they went 2-2. They're in a tough pool though, having Northeastern and Brown in the. Unfortunately, the games against Northeastern and Brown weren't that close in pool play. So, Brown and Northeastern against McGill. So 13-6 to Brown and 13-6 to Northeastern. But they were able to beat the other two teams, Maine and Harvard, finishing in the third seed, which placed them in ever so fun second place quarterfinals, where they took down UMass Zoodisk. That's get fired up. I believe UMass had Orion Cable there, if I'm not mistaken, one of like the best young players out there in the States. And he was on that team. So they beat Orion Cable and the UMass Zoodisk team 12-9. And then went into the second place semis. And I'm not even going to say the score here because I don't think it's indicative of what McGill can do. But it did not, let's just say that game was not their best game. And they ran out of steam, losing to Northeastern. Northeastern then had to play the loser of the Brown-Vermont final. So Brown bested Vermont. I think Brown's going to win the whole thing. That's a sneak peek into predictions later on. But Vermont defeated Northeastern, a game I edited for Alti World. It was fun to watch. But it was 15-8, so not very close. So Vermont, congratulations. I know you have no association with our podcast, but I do like to see new teams making it. And a team called like Chill, Vermont Chill. Like that's a sick name.
That is a sick name. Now, speaking of chillin', we thought that Boston would be coming up here. This is AUDL news now. We thought Boston would come up here and just like slap around our little Canadian teams because we haven't seen them compete against American teams in a while. So why don't you break down all of that action for us?
Well, first of all, Danie, I love your AUDL knowledge because that is true. Second of all, Boston and Ottawa have never played against each other, and Boston has never played any of these Canadian teams because they've only come into existence since last year.
I knew that. So
yeah, good fact checking. But yeah, got some intel from the Boston coaching staff and who was there just kind of before, just as a broadcaster, trying to get some info. And they were rostering. Okay, you're gonna love this. Rostered 17 players. An 18th player was their assistant coach, who basically was only going to go in if they got a break. So if they got a break, he's coming in to play a point. Otherwise, he ain't playing. So basically, whoever could go was there. A lot of their players were playing regionals, as I just mentioned with Orion Cable as an example. So, Danie, I know you're never going to have to choose this because you're not playing the AUDL or college. But if you had the choice between playing a doubleheader weekend in Ottawa and Montreal or playing college regionals, what are you picking?
College regionals, those are the best tournaments of my career. It's just so many heartbreaking, heart-making moments in one tournament with your squad that you're growing up with. Regionals all the way.
Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer because I didn't even play in the U.S. in college, and I already can tell you that's what I would pick because it just looks way like you have other, not that, you never know when your career is going to end, but it's like you have the opportunity to play regionals with your teammates. You could be a senior. It just makes sense to play regionals, play AUDL next week. I don't know. We'll see. It could cost Boston a playoff spot later. We'll find out how they do in the rest of the season. I know they're going to have to play New York and stuff, so we'll see how it goes. But the big game and by the way, before I continue, I did pick for subs only, whoever subscribes. You heard me talk about it. I predicted this victory, so I am 1-0 in picks, is all I'm saying. So, big game this weekend, which I will not predict, Danie. I'll let you do it because I'll be broadcasting the game. So, like I said, I don't predict. But Ottawa versus Toronto, 0-1 Toronto, 1-0 Ottawa, in Toronto, Battle of Ontario, hyping it up. Who is going to take the proverbial Ontario trophy come Saturday?
I'm going to say Ottawa. That's my prediction. They're young. They're exciting. I'm on the Ottawa hype train.
Ottawa hype train, Jeremy Hill and the rest of the team there. They got some young studs. I'm telling you, you got to watch out for some of them. One of their rookies, Martin Gallant, he played or I guess he was listed to the U20 Team Canada team, never actually played because of COVID. But he's really exciting. 5'6" kid, but got the springs, got the energy. So got to keep an eye for those players. And for Ottawa, a chance to go 2-0 and really, obviously, playoffs are, really early to talk about, but 12-game schedule, there's only a certain margin of error. So if you're Ottawa, you got to have this game. If you're Toronto, let's get that first W. So I'm trying to be impartial here as without picking. So that's my final spiel about the AUDL.
You did great. You did great. So I'm pretty sure that's all of our news. We do have a main event. We're going to be doing a little bit of a preview of the TUX tournament. So if you stick around after the ad, we will be doing all of that preview action for you right away. This episode is sponsored by VC Ultimate. Now, if you know me, or you've seen me on the fields, or you've seen me coaching, you know I'm repping VC Ultimate. VC is a company that proudly puts values and company before profit. VC is the world's best source for quality, design, and all of your ultimate needs. So check out VC to get your gear now.
Hi, this is Carla DiFilippo, coach of the Toronto Sixers and co-founder of the Toronto Elites Junior Program. And you're listening to the Huckin A podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
Not just for the Toronto folks here. Some Ottawa teams are coming, KW, a team from Winnipeg. So we're going to preview one of the bigger tournaments, TUX. Just, a little teaser here. Yours truly may or may not be there with a camera filming some games. So keep an eye out for that in terms of the filming schedule. It won't be live streamed. They'll be filmed and for public consumption later under the Ulti World subscription pack. So you can do that. So we're going to talk TUX. Danie, I know you've been studying for years these teams. So I know you're ready. I know you're not necessarily going to give your picks like you did last year. I'm going to kind of go through the pools. Danie's going to nod her head and say all of Theo's picks are going to be good. So and that's it. So
I do have a question before you begin.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Is it a typo, or is there a B team for Phoenix called Phoenix?
Oh, that is not a typo.
I'm obsessed
right now,
with that.
Okay. Don't pause this episode, folks, but Danie, go on your phone, search up their Instagram because it's real. And you do the same, unless you're driving. If you're driving, listening to this, don't do that. But otherwise, grab your phone out and search up this team because it does make sense. Danie was like, did Theo make a typo? No. It's
because that happens. I'm so excited Phoenix exists. That's so funny.
Do you see that? It's pretty funny, right?
It is very funny.
I think it's an upside down Phoenix logo, if I'm not mistaken. Is it?
I just love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's a blue, the team used to be Shrike. Now it's Phoenix. I love it personally. Like, I'm into the sort of name wordplay of teams, which you'll see in other teams that we'll be talking about. So I guess we'll start with Open since you kind of brought it up there. So Pool G, you got one of the big fans of the podcast still. So they're still loving the podcast. You got Tombstone, who Tombstone, you burned me before when I picked you at UCI Masters. So we'll see if I pick you this time. You got Phoenix, and then you got an unknown Too Bad, which is basically just pick up players from Toronto. Then you got Pool H with Hound, another big fan of the podcast. Boat, a team that I may or may not be a homer for because I'm practicing with them. GT, and then Maverick may or may not be my alma mater. So there's a lot of personal connections here. I'll try not to pick based on homerisms, as they say. Pool K has a bunch of other teams as well. And we'll start there. I predict Roy will be kind of the top of that pool. They got some young, you use the words, young and exciting players. But something I'm really excited for is that Toronto has Go, GT, Roy, Boat. So 4 teams in that city, like with players like all trying to at different development levels playing. So I know Vancouver had a 3rd team before in the Open division. Is that still happening, or I know it's a little bit?
I haven't heard anything about that. I think there's been a kind of resurgence of mixed ultimate So the fact that there's 4, I believe, mixed teams now, it's just the 2 open teams and 2 women's teams, from what I can tell.
Okay. Well, there you go. So there is some crossover play, but I don't suspect any teams from the Pool K will move up. So my pools are still Tombstone, Phoenix, and Too Bad in that order. And then Hound, Boat. GT's not going to like this, but I'm picking against them again. I did it last year. I was right when it came to Red Circus. I missed a pick against them before. So we'll see what happens. And then Maverick. Sorry, I didn't pick my alma mater there in the bottom. The semis are going to be Still versus GT and Hound versus Boat, which is going to be a rematch actually of pool play based on my calculations. And then I have Still defeating Hound in the final. So Still, I picked against you before. I'm not going to do it again. So I'm going to pick you to win. And just a caveat for you, Danie, and the Huckin audience, a lot of the players on Hound, Boat, and GT, the rush players are spread out across those teams. So like there's a few sprinkled here and there, mostly on Hound. And so the Saturday matchups will be interesting because they won't be having those players because obviously they have a game that night. And we'll see how many of them will suit up on Sunday. So that's a caveat for you.
I do like Still's social media, so I think I'm going to vote for them to win as well.
I messaged Still personally and was like, hey, whoever's running this is like killing the social media game. You guys.
So funny.
Yeah, you're doing the pictures and they're doing like these graphics. Like, did you see the one where they talked about Drake and like they like posted a video, I think, and it was like, I liked it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know who's doing it. Give us a call.
I do know who's doing it, but like I said, I don't want to blow their identities. What if they just want to hide behind the alias of their team?
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
You know?
Anyways, keep it up. You're crushing it.
Oh, appreciate that. Women's. I'm going to kind of be frank here, and I think lowercase is just going to kind of walk through the tournament, but I could be wrong. I think maybe like 20% chance I'm wrong. But there's a lot of the ex-Capital players on that team, or a few of them, so I think they will show their moxie. But anyways, your pools are lowercase. TWU is the Toronto Women's Ultimate Team, so that's for those who might not know. Lore, the Women's Masters Team in Toronto, and Joy Huck Club. I was trying to figure out who some of these teams are because there's some names I don't know. And so Joy Huck Club is a Masters women's team that plays in the Ontario 4v4 circuit. So we'll see how they sling it out of there in the sevens. But I have that pool going to chalk, and same thing with Pool B. So that's PPF out of Kitchener-Waterloo, Fox out of Durham, Queen Peas, the Masters team out of that Kitchener-Waterloo area, and then Night Fury, which is a Durham juniors girls team. So I failed to mention this about on the men's side or the open side. Stud from Durham, the juniors team, is going to be there. So Danie, as the juniors coach, you got to be excited that there's some juniors teams in this adult tournament.
It's definitely good for them to be playing against adults. I also think it's really good for juniors to play with adults. It's amazing for their development. You'll see a lot of juniors that come out of small towns that are just really good at playing Ultimate, even though there isn't a thriving junior scene, just because those juniors are forced to be playing with adults all the time. So I love this move. I think it's so good for development. Kudos, good luck. And also, like, rest in peace adults that have to chase around these little juniors everywhere.
Yeah, the person I'm thinking about when you say that is Maddie Ong, though, because she played Bunny Thugs like in her kind of younger days, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's an example of that growth. And now look what she's doing for UBC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Semis, I have lowercase versus Fox. And then I have the Toronto Women's Ultimate Team to be named versus PPF. PPF being the first seed in Pool B. I actually have the Toronto Women's Ultimate Team upsetting PPF and lowercase winning in the final. So those are my picks.
The TWU, the Toronto Women's Ultimate Team, is that old Toxics?
Yeah, it's been reincarnated.
I see.
Karen Chan, who you might know, I'm sure some in the audience know, has played some TCs, played Sixers as well, will be captaining. And they have a couple coaches as well. So I think, building up that women's program again is super important. Because from my knowledge, they didn't run last year. No, they definitely did not run in 2021. So I know Vancouver's trying to get that second women's team going, and they are.
Yep.
Correct?
There's a third women's team, actually. I think somebody just told me. I just remembered. I know I said that there's only two, but I only have seen the rosters for two. But I think that there is a third.
There you go. So, yeah, that's the women's division. And then mixed. I think mixed is going to be the really exciting division because I think there are many teams that could kind of make some moves here. And there's many options for who's gonna kind of be in the finals. I kind of have my winner of who's gonna win it all, which no surprises, spoiler, is gonna be Union. But Pool C, you have, first of all, I love the 16-team format for them. You love that for them because it's 4 pools of 4. So Pool C, you have Union, Reunion, Max Power, Grey Owl. Pool D, you have Crash, Crank, Local 613, and a new team out of Toronto called Danger Noodle. I'm going to get, Danny, once again, I'm going to make you go on Instagram. You're going to search up Danger Noodle's graphics. I'm not going to throw shade at them because a lot of them are my peeps and I know them. You either love the graphics that they have or you don't love the graphics that they have. I think it's funny, but clearly they're going for a certain vibe, if you catch my drift.
Okay, so this is like the new thing to be doing. I'm recognizing this a lot in like Juniors Ultimate, where when they do like roster drops, it's like very, very bad looking text. It's misaligned. Maybe some of the stuff's written in with pen or misspelled and stuff like that. They're very on theme. They're very on trend. So good job, Danger Noodle.
I think they got some maybe some people on TikTok or something that are following all the TikTok trends. But
oh my gosh, this is my sense of humor. I like this.
Yeah. So that's Danger Noodle, and then Pool E and F are kind of your bottom 2 pools. With there you go for the screen there. Yeah, that was their like captain announcement. So I'm pretty sure their leadership announcement that each player had to draw their own like snake or whatever like that animal is. So. Mixed E, this is their bottom pools: Crux, Horses Over Porches, Flips, and MMV, and then Force, Zen, Thunder, Axiom. I actually have a team moving up from the bottom to the top, so stay tuned for that. But Pool C, I have Union, then their, I guess, big siblings in Reunion, Grey Owl, and then Max Power, everyone's favorite. They love the memes. They love to tweet at us, but we're not on Twitter, so sorry. Pool D, I have Crank. I have this all over seeds or random seeds here in Pool D. So I have Crank winning. I know they did really well at TUX last year and I didn't pick them. So I'm going with Ottawa Crank, liking what they got. Then Local, then Crash, and then I'm sorry, Danger Noodle. Use this as your fodder on your chalkboard or your billboard or whatever to like motivate you to win. That Theo did not pick you. So that's Pool C. And then I have Pool E, Crux taking it, and then Force as well. I have Force defeating Max Power in the crossover to move up, and then Danger Noodle holds off Crux. And then in quarters, I have Union, Crash, Crank, and Local 613 winning. Union defeats Local 613, and Crank defeats Crash, setting up a Union Crank final, and Union wins. So hopefully you were able to follow all that along, folks. Those are my picks. If I didn't pick your team, what do we say, Danny? If I don't pick your team,
use it as fuel.
Use it as fuel. If I picked your team, don't get too cocky. You better show up.
Yeah. Before we segue to something else, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, I'm going to flip my camera around. My dog is being there's my foot. She's being very crazy right now. Can you see her little face? Rah, rah. So you got to watch the YouTube video if you want to be able to see my dog being crazy.
That is actually true. Please do that. We do like that.
So apologize if you're not watching it on YouTube. You didn't get to see my foot or my dog. So what are you doing? Get on the YouTube.
There you go. So I know the mixed division is hard to predict, and I found it a little bit difficult, but Union doesn't have their roster yet, but I heard it's going to be pretty good. So that's my pick there.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I mean, they're the team to play for. I feel like in that area for mixed, they've been doing well for so long, even rebranded this year. So
yeah. Oh, we won't discuss the logo too much, but I do like the rebrand. Do you know why they rebranded, by the way?
Of course not.
Oh, okay. So if you see the fist that they normally use, they talk about how that's used in certain like contexts and like they want to allow that. I actually am doing a poor job of explaining it, so I should probably just read what they wrote as why they did it.
Well, it is used for social activist groups.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't want to use it for a Frisbee team that's not necessarily doing social activism.
That's literally what they wrote. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah, you're more eloquent than me. So Yeah, so I'll just read this quickly because I think it is important for people to understand why they're like rebranding, not just for like the sake of rebranding, because some teams do that and some teams have a real reason. So this was posted last year in August. With the new season comes a new look and feel. Our original logo is associated with the social movement Black Lives Matter that we do not want to take away from. After last year's events, we were prompted to improve our understanding of these social movements and reconsider our team logo. As we decided on this is like when they were going with the throwback like Subway logo, and now they've got this one. But that's the reason why. We're seeing this in college too, right? I know UCSD used to be the Psychos, now they're Deco. There's other teams that have had to rebrand for certain reasons. So, yeah, I mean, you see it in baseball. The Indians are now the Guardians. Yeah.
I'm happy that there's been a rebrand. I think that like just because something's always been one way doesn't mean that we shouldn't critically look at it and make adjustments based on things that we learn along the way. Tradition is not more important than making sure everybody feels seen, appreciated, and understood. So appreciate the rebrand union as well. I think that it's meaningful. So I like the old Subway, like that logo too. I like the colors of it. So the new rebrand is good too.
Yeah, and kind of going back into the mixed predictions here, the fact that there's teams coming from like Kingston, Ottawa, Kitchener-Waterloo as well, like that's just really cool because obviously when people hear about this tournament, they think it's more Toronto based, but as you can see, there's 16 teams and not all of them are from Toronto, so it's good to see kind of that mix of people from coming from different regions going to play. Wish you were there because we got Ottawa Open represented in Ottawa Mix, so
yeah,
I think it's too late to sign up, but
possibly. So, Theo, I know you're a big partier. I know you're a big rager.
Oh yeah, totally.
So, I know in BC we had the Sun Flicker tournament, which is like a party tournament, but I mean it's high level. Oh, my dog is definitely freaking out right now. It's really fun. So, for those of you that are listening, if you're not a subscriber, you should be, because Theo and I are going to head to the subscriber only section and we're going to talk party tournaments. We're going to talk a little bit about our personal experiences, including some embarrassing moments.
Or lack thereof. So, yeah, I want to thank everyone for being with us this episode and for hearing all the updates. As per normal, you can follow us on social media. Please send us all the updates, tag us and everything. We want to be your go-to hub for all things Canadian Ultimate, obviously. Danie, you're doing the sign off from now on because you just killed it. Like, love the plug of the socials, love plug of the subscriber only. Just killing it. Yeah, I have nothing more to say. Good job.
All right. Nothing more to say for the first time ever. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you in the subscriber only section.
Hey, c'est Phil Dorval, directeur technique pour Ultimate Québec, et vous écoutez le Huckin podcast, votre guide pour l'Ultimate canadien d'un océan à l'autre.